There are a lot of disputes about the Soviet period and its influence on Kazakh people. Someone sees only good sides from the actions of the Soviet government, others only bad. But how the Soviet government changed Kazakh culture is quite an interesting question. Nomads for the settled Russian population were most often seen as incomprehensible, uncontrolled, and therefore dangerous subjects for the state. So the Soviet government tried to transfer the Kazakh population from the nomadic lifestyle to the settlement using various methods. Posters agitating the transition to agriculture, the establishment of Soviet school education propagandizing any ideas, in this case sedentary lifestyle, Small October, and collectivization. Soviet government saw the transition to settlement as something positive, like this. According to many historians, it was the famine that became the main reason for the Aul population to accept the conditions of the Soviet power. And after that, the collective farms were created. The first collective farms were organized on a national basis. Representatives of Russian collective farms had to teach Kazakhs to work in the field. They taught them to plant and cultivate garden crops. Kazakhs who have settled down started to perceive elements of neighboring cultures, mainly Russian and Ukrainian. As a result, in the 30s and 50s of the 20th century, the Kazakh traditional culture started to disappear.
So let's talk about a brief history of religion in Kazakhstan. During the USSR, the relationship between the religion and state was really controversial. For example, communists said that communism and religion cannot stand together. However, there were also some stages when they coexisted. In April 1929, there was a decree that was against the religion. However, from 1964 till the collapse of the USSR, there was a scientific atheism, and it acquires the civilized form. From the modernization perspective, such freedom of minds was really good leap towards going outside of the traditional box and getting to know the world from different views. During the Soviet period, people were forced to speak Russian. Students were also learning in Russian, and if anyone would speak Kazakh, they will get shamed for that. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, shifting back to the Kazakh was really hard. Therefore, everything was getting modernized by using the Russian language, and Kazakh language was unfortunately left out.
Let's move on to the dance and music of Kazakhstan. The main reason for a lack of widespread existence of national dance culture among the Kazakhs was nomadic way of life. Since 1960s, the development of modern mass musical culture in Kazakhstan went on following directions. In 1990s, a landmark performance in Theatrical Life of Kazakhstan was the play Karagöz by composer Zhubanova and choreographer Alexidze. The second one is creativity of Shashikal Dayakov, who became the main pendulum, synthesizing in European style of thinking with national mentality in his songs. The next one is wonderful generation of highly dedicated academics has grown up composers who understand the main trend in the development of musical culture. For example, Bayterekov, Dusikeyev, Kashgaliyev, Yerkimbekov, Shudjibayev, and Intakbayev.
Also, the research was conducted by our team in order to test the popularity of the famous artists of Kazakhstan before the Soviet Union and after. The test examined the answers of people from the age of 16 to 35 and more. From the old representatives, the commonly appeared one was Abay Khanambayev, and from the Soviet Union times, Kulash Bayseitova was the most popular.
How would we know about Kulash Bayseitova? Or let's say, how would Russian people would know about Kulash Bayseitova if there was no cultural exchange, if there was no cultural Soviet policy, because they organized like 10 days of festival in Moscow in order to introduce Kazakh culture to other people. So otherwise Kulash Bayseitova will stay at home as a housewife, maybe singing in the village, if there is no like a strong cultural policy who would invite those talented people. I can only maybe talk about like positive sides in terms of introducing, in terms of improving, maybe modifying in a positive way Kazakh culture.